I would do anything for lunch, anything you would like to munch, but I just won't eat that. Yeah, I don't normally do the intros on the show, but I gotta give a heartfelt shout out to Meatloaf, who passed away. At least I think it was today. I heard about it this morning. His music I've grown up with ever since I developed consciousness. I love the Bat Out of the Hell albums, and he died at 76 today. Very sad. And if you guys have never heard of Meatloaf, seriously, go look up some of his tunes on YouTube. Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Obviously, I'd do anything for love. All that good stuff. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Saib, you fan of Meatloaf?
Yeah, like I'm not like huge, but yeah.
You know his stuff.
Yeah, I know his stuff, yeah.
Yeah, his name was Robert Paulson. If you get that reference, we're best friends. As sad as that is, it's not gaming related. Let's get into the gaming stuff. Obviously, the big news that happened this week was the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard King. I'm going to let Saib do the intro on this, but just before he does, I just want to let you guys know that if you want a more in-depth analysis of every specific thing that happened with this deal, we did do a live broadcast soon after the announcement was made over on the Triple S League channel. You can go check that out. We'll put a link to it in the description box below. Today, we're just going to be providing a recap of some of the more basic points, as well as some of the things that have transpired since that happened a few days ago. Saib, take it away.
So, there's been a lot of back and forth on this, a lot recently. And some of the back and forth we want to kind of like, I want to kind of pin down. Yeah. And the first one is that there's some people going, oh no, there's a bunch of people that are trying to stop the merger. This always happens, especially with Microsoft. They've always been targeted for this kind of stuff. And I would say that typically, yeah, it is a worrisome thing when a company gains so much power.
Yes.
In the form of like, a monopoly, because monopolies tend to be bad. But I don't think the gaming industry is anywhere close to a monopoly yet. I don't necessarily like is the merger good? And I have it yes and no.
Yes and no.
Is it good that we're getting rid of the existing Blizzard leadership? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Is it bad that Microsoft is gaining so much power? And the answer to that is also yes. So it's a good thing that Blizzard's being outed and completely revamped. Hopefully it'll give a chance to some of the developers to actually get paid better, right, and treated better.
Microsoft certainly has the money for that. And speaking of switching up the management and pay and money not being distributed properly, one big question that came out of this merger was, okay, how is this going to affect Bobby Kotick's employment with the company? He was the CEO of he is the CEO of Activision Blizzard, and people have wanted him gone for a long time because ever since the announcement of all the behind-the-scenes harassment stuff that was happening, that was announced back in July, but even though it's been happening for a long time, people have wanted Kotick out because he completely failed his employees, but he has stayed in and has been raking in hundreds of millions of dollars while holding his position. People were hoping that because of this deal, he would be kicked out. And it's like the air around that question wasn't really clear for a couple days, but does it seem like we more or less know what's going to happen now, Saib?
Yeah, we do. It's being reported by multiple fronts, and and I have been studying this situation very closely. I've been talking to people that I know, and I can say for sure that Bobby Kotick will be out by the time that this thing finishes, possibly sooner. It may be that if he wishes to step down, he can step down. Right now, so there's been some back and forth. I cannot confirm this in the way of like here is this proof positive, filing that shows that this has happened this way. I can't do that, but what I can say is that after talking to some people and listening, putting my ear to the ground and reading a bunch of articles, they're all pointing towards the same thing. and that Bobby basically said that, you know, he wasn't going to take money until the situation was resolved. So he downgraded his salary to the
$60K.
you know, to that $60K, which is the lowest a CEO can make in California for some odd reason. Now he's going to get that paycheck, which is a big whoop for him. You know, for us, yeah, of course, right? You know, that's a lot of money, but for him, that's nothing. You know, that's paltry. He probably blows more on a holiday weekend than that. So he's not happy about that, but he's not happy about a bunch of other things. One of the things that he's not happy about, again, we kind of chatted about this a little bit earlier this week, but one of the things that he's really, really not happy with is that he's being forced to sell his shares back to the company, back like essentially to Microsoft, for a below market value. He owns like 4 million shares, and if he was getting paid the top amount that looks like he would be making over 400 million. Jesus. Just over 400 million. But it looks as if he's being forced to shell them out at a lower rate, which will end up netting him only 300 million, give or take a little.
Okay.
And if that's true, then that means basically the board and Microsoft essentially said, yeah, we're going to freeze your shares at this lower number, somewhere in the 70 to 80 range or a little lower. And you're only going to be walking with 300 million, and he's not getting a cut of the total sale either. This is quite common when a CEO arranges a buyout that's very profitable to the board and all that stuff. They usually walk away with anywhere between like 3 and 10% as a personal cut to them, as a personal, like, here's a check, there you go. He's not getting that either. So a lot of people are like, oh, Bobby's sure making a lot of money from this. And yes, he is. That money is a lot to us. That money is not anywhere near what he was wanting to make.
But in the corporate world...
Exactly. Like, right. If he had gotten a 10% cut of this, he's walking away with $6 billion.
Yeah.
So, and he's not. He's not even walking away with $500 million. He's walking away with $300 million. Again, more money than any of us will see in our lifetime, most likely, unless inflation just keeps on going up and up and up and up. But that's that key of like him not getting that much. And then when you watch him in the interviews, he's very much pushing this like, oh yes, this was totally my idea. Yes, this was my idea. This was my idea. I can say for sure from what I'm hearing from, like, again, multiple sources, not just me and my sources, it's big newspaper articles going into the fact that he was unhappy with this and he tried to find another buyer to at least try and get the bidding to go higher, but it was shot down very quickly by both Microsoft, or by his board and Microsoft. That to me says that he didn't have any friends left on the board. Yeah. Like, they were like, yeah, we're in here because you probably got dirt on us all. But when it came to this, when it came to him like, no, don't take my this cash cow baby of mine, because again, he did build it up from basically bankrupt state. So at least we can thank him for that, essentially. But he is, generally speaking, a very bad person.
Yeah. And
this, as far as CEOs go, he's pretty rotten to the core. And it's basically like we're looking at this and like he's not winning his victory. He's getting the lowest payout that he could probably get, and being told that he's got to like appear in front of all these shows and he's got to say the right things and he's got to do the dance and he's got to make this thing happen. And the whole time he's so angry with himself and everybody around him, most likely, because he's not walking away with that several $1 billion. He's not going to join the billionaire club,
right?
The multi-billionaire club. He's barely above that now. And so like he's barely above $1 billion now. So again, I'm looking at this as a win-win as far as like how he's being treated, because again, these people have so much pride and arrogance. These CEOs, they're also like, most of them are like, there was a study that kind of hinted that most of them are psychotic on some level.
Yeah.
It's like this is making him more angry, and this hurts him more than like most other scenarios, because he's being eaten by a giant fish, and he's not having it. He's not happy with that at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, this is, in my humble opinion, this is great. Like, this is not just great. This is comeuppance. This is like, you're done. This is like, congratulations to everybody that made this happen. It's like, this is it. And again, some people are like, I wish that he would suffer more. It's like, wishing somebody to suffer is pretty, mean-spirited just in general. But, I think he's getting a fairly substantial boot up the backside, and I think that's fine. So
sorry, can I just interject here for a second?
Yeah.
To the people that are like, well, he shouldn't be getting anything at all, just I understand the moral sentiment, but this is a real world that we live in, and we got to take the victories where we can get them. And I absolutely love what you're saying here, Cy, because it paints a picture for the people that are listening. They're like, hey, this is probably one of the best case scenarios that we could have gotten given the circumstances. Bobby Kotick is a pariah in the industry right now. Nobody's going to want to work with him. And even though he is getting like hundreds of millions of dollars in severance pay,
he is trying real hard to get quite chummy with Facebook right now. He's talking up the metaverse. He's like, and again, he's like, oh yes, this was always my idea. And again, you're just sitting there, you're like, what the hell is wrong? What? Like, really, this was your idea?
Yeah. Okay.
What? So again, I know and I understand people are like, erg, but it's like this guy's he's desperate. Like, you listen to him talk during these interviews, and whenever somebody asks him about the abuse allegations and stuff like that, he brushes it off as quickly as he can, and then he goes back to talking about the metaverse. Do I think that he's going to build some other company down the road and manage to create some kind of like, snobby, disgusting empire in the future where, again, he just rinse and repeats everything that he's done here?
Sure.
That's a possibility, but I mean, that's always a possibility. Like, trust me, I think this is good. We can kind of sit back and go, yeah,
battle won.
Battle won.
Yeah. And a couple other things while we're still on the subject, stuff that's happened over the last couple of days. Following this announcement, Sony, their stock dropped big time. It dropped 13%. In case you're wondering how much that is, that's around $20 billion worth of stock. And it's the largest fall in stock price that they've had since 2008. Yeah, remember when the PS3 originally came out, guys, how much of a disaster that was for them? Take that and compare it. Like, it's pretty much the same in terms of stock. It makes me wonder what exactly Sony's going to be doing in regards to like a sort of a response. Cy, please tell me that there's a chance that they're going to buy Konami. At least the properties I want them to buy.
I would, of course, I'm right there with you. I would love this to happen. Is it likely to happen? I mean,
Cy's trying to be really nice to me right now.
I mean, it's gonna be close. Like, it's gonna be not just a little close. I mean, we're talking like, some serious issues here with that concept. But again, it's like, maybe
stranger things have happened.
Like, stranger things have happened. Cross your fingers and hope. Now, I mean, I've been hearing rumors for a while. We've been talking about them on and off for a while now. Microsoft has been courting Japanese developers like crazy. They have been establishing as much like bonus, incentives, trade options, anything and everything. They are desperate to get people, like, desperate to get these Chinese developers behind them. And so when I look at that, I'm like, all right, well, I mean, what can you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what can they do in that scenario, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping, but again, this is probably like, I don't think we'll see another major acquisition, probably for another year or more.
Yeah.
And the main thing behind that is that I mean, they might snatch up another like 5 to 10 billion dollars, but they also need to do this kind of slowly. If they outright bankrupt their opposition tomorrow and sink both Nintendo and PlayStation, then yeah, you're going to have a lot of governments screaming, monopoly, monopoly, monopoly. And what do they love doing? They love crushing monopolies. Now, again, it's a good thing to crush monopolies.
Yes,
it's a fairly like I'm pretty free markety, but I'm not free market in the sense that it's okay for monopolies to develop. I really don't think that they should. I think that they should be, if you only have one internet provider in your area, doesn't matter if that's a small company or not, something needs to break there. Yeah. Because, and again, the same goes for gas, water, electricity, food. Like, did you know grocery stores, typically they buy a monopoly from the town, so that they're like, okay, I'm going to set up a grocery store here and I don't want any other competition within like a 30-minute drive. And this results in serious, what they call food deserts. Because, yeah, sure, you get that 30-minute drive one way and that 30-minute drive the other way, or maybe it's more. In some cases, sometimes it's even more. And you end up creating these packs of like locations where, well, there's a really crappy place up the road, 20, 30 minutes away, but unfortunately they're kind of like low tier in what they're providing, and there's no other competition because there's not allowed to be any other competition. So I'm very much against that. I don't think it's good. I think more people should have the right to set up co-ops and sell themselves and their neighbors everything from insurance to food, groceries, power, internet, whatever. I think that's a good thing, and I think we've moved away from that as a society way too much. There's something to be said about big corporations being able to streamline a lot of things, but it is also something to be said about people learning to do things differently, and in so doing things differently, also competing and creating the best price for your investment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my personal thoughts. I think that's probably really good. So again, will that happen? I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think that it's something that we have to panic about too much in this case for now. And I don't, because I also don't think that Microsoft's going to overstretch too much. I don't think they'll actually buy Konami, because Konami doesn't have anything that Microsoft wants other than IPs. Right. And I hate to say that because I know how much people want IPs, but there's nothing active. There's no active development in any of those things. There's no active, there's no Metal Gear Solid game on the market right now that people are playing in the hundreds of thousands. Yeah. There just isn't. It's just all old stuff. And I just don't think that that's what they want, and I really don't think that that's what they're going to do. Now that's, having said that, Phil Spencer went on record with an interview just recently talking about how they really like a lot of these dormant franchises that Blizzard has been sitting on, and they want to do things with them. Mm-hmm. And I'm quoting from this article, "I was looking at the IP list. I mean, let's go," Spencer said. "King's Quest, Guitar Hero. I should this, but I think they've got Hexen." Huh. I should know this, but I think they've got Hexen. So Hexen indeed. Yeah. The Toys for Bob, he mentioned directly to Toys for Bob,
Spyro,
Crash Bandicoot,
Spyro,
a bunch of other things. He mentioned these things by name in this interview. This means that yeah, Tony Hawk, another one.
Oh yeah.
He mentioned all of these things by name, and he was like, this is stuff we want to build on.
Good.
And I think one of the things that they're going to do to like kind of like help to prop up PlayStation as like a semi like, you know, competitor is the original Sony mascot of Crash Bandicoot. he said there was a mention that he wouldn't necessarily want to strip that away from them. So it would be really kind of funny if Crash Bandicoot ends up becoming this, you know, again, this mascot of PlayStation while he's owned by Microsoft. What is going on? What kind of cloud world are we living in, guys, when this is happening? I don't know. So yeah, this is really insane. But these are things to look forward to because, again, Blizzard's leadership was and is still currently, they are dropping the ball on everything.
Yeah.
It's like going to watch like a high class, like, you know, legendary performer. And they're just like, they're drunk. They're slurring all their words. They gave themselves a massive injury whilst on stage, but they're like, no, man, I'm gonna finish the set. I'm gonna finish the set. You know,
they're the Axl Rose of the gaming industry.
Exactly, and it's just horrendous. It's been horrendous watching them over the past few months, and there's been no redeeming quality of like, well, I'm gonna still support them. It's like, no, I encourage everybody, like. Everybody we've talked to that I still know that I knew that was playing WoW, I got all of them to quit.
Good.
And because it's like we can't continue to support this garbage as long as they're putting out garbage and acting like garbage and being garbage.
Yeah.
Eventually they have to change and improve. And again, that's not everybody. I know developers that worked, you know, current and past that work for Blizzard. And most of them are depressed, unhappy, and sad.
Oh, yeah.
And I want that to change. And I think the only way we get that change is by having this change. So
yeah, well, I imagine they are. When you're making such little money and having to work more like than the 40-hour work week, of course you're going to be depressed. And then finally, just a couple other things that I want to bring up. People have been wondering, like I don't personally care because I don't really care about Call of Duty, but obviously it's one of the biggest franchises in the world. People were wondering what Call of Duty's future was going to be like now that it's been acquisitioned by Microsoft. Phil Spencer actually spoke to this. He put out a tweet on the Call of Duty franchise specifically a couple days ago. I'm reading verbatim. Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry and we value our relationship. And then one other small thing. People are wondering because Activision published Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, a few years ago, whether or not that means that Sekiro is actually owned by Microsoft now and any future games in that franchise would be Xbox exclusive. The answer is no. From Software owns the rights to that particular IP. Activision just owns the publishing rights. And people are like, well, wait a minute. If Activision's under Microsoft and they own the publishing rights, doesn't that mean they can technically just publish specifically to Microsoft platforms? Not necessarily, because Psychonauts 2, just a recent example, that was published by Xbox Game Studios. But you can buy that game for the PlayStation 4. So it's a case-by-case basis, I imagine, because From Software is such a beloved company that they'll be able to have some say in regards to what platform that it appears on. And that's pretty much it in regards to everything that's happened over the last couple of days that we didn't talk about last Tuesday whenever we recorded on Triple S League. Saib, did you want to say anything to those couple things that I just said?
No, that's it. I mean, this is an evolving situation. We're going to have lots of talking about it in the future. So
yeah, we'll be talking about it over the next year and a half because it won't be until mid-2023 when the deal officially goes through. Hopefully in that time, well, actually no, because I was going to say I would hope that we would hear a word about certain projects that are going into active development, but I don't think they can do that until the deal fully goes through, Mm-hmm. So, but oh well, hopefully within the next couple of years we'll be able to hear official word that Spyro 4 is coming out. And then I will be all the happier for it. Now, we just have a few other smaller stories that we'll just knock out of the way. This next one is just a brief reminder that the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition was a thing. Yeah, remember that came out a couple of months ago and people were all pissed off about the state of that game? Apparently now it's some parts of it are fixed. I'll get into that in a second. The main thing I wanted to comment on is that the Take-Two CEO, the people that publish GTA, Strauss Zelnick, he said the following on the trilogy during an interview with CNBC a couple weeks ago. It's only being reported on now for some reason. He said, with regards to the GTA trilogy, that was actually not a new title. That was a remaster of pre-existing titles. We did have a glitch in the beginning. That glitch was resolved. Now, a lot of people are taking issue with the fact that he's saying that it was just a glitch, like singular, when really it was a plethora of glitches, hundreds of glitches. And from what I understand, a lot of those glitches are still around. I did a little bit of investigation into whether or not the glitch has actually been fixed. It's sort of up in the air for me personally. For example, some of the complaints that people had with the game upon release, like the songs from the soundtrack not being there anymore. A bunch of them are still gone. People are still clipping into textures on mountains. Like in San Andreas, for example, if you're going up Mount Chiliad, you'll just suddenly morph into the mountain. Some textures still look really stretched, stuff like that. But I will give credit where credit is due. Apparently, a whole bunch of stuff has been fixed. People wanted the cinematic mode back, like when you drive and you hold down circle or B and you can get a bird's eye view of your car. That's back in the game. The LOD, like far off detail of the maps, particularly in San Andreas, kind of looked ugly now that you're able to see everything, but that's been partially fixed by adding fog. The misspelling on signs, all those are pretty much fixed. Everything about the rain has been fixed. That was one of the big complaints because people were complaining about feeling sick driving at night in those games because it just looked terrible. Character faces have been fixed. What else? The minigun, like when you're operating a minigun in those games, the thing actually spins when it's fired. And a bunch of other little details. Now, as for its current state, I'm not really sure. See, I never bought the game, and the last full updates that I can find online were about a month ago. I did talk to a friend of mine who owns it, and he's been playing a lot of it recently. He said that it's still buggy, like buggy as hell, but it's buggy in the same way that a Bethesda game is buggy. You can still play it and have fun, but the bugs are still noticeably there. Like you'll see enemies clipping into the ground and stuff like that. So that's just a brief update on that. Side, do you have anything you want to say about your old friends at Take-Two?
Giant donkey something. Again, it's laughable that a big company, again, it's these companies, they clearly don't care.
Yeah.
They just clearly don't care.
Why should they have to care? They make $8 million a day. That's an exact figure, by the way. Sorry, go ahead.
And again, that's horrifying when you realize, like, again, what they could be doing. And it's like, you could always be doing better and more and that kind of stuff. But it's like, some of these companies, they really strive hard for mediocrity. They really give it their all. It's like, hey guys, we're just going to go in and we're going to make sure that nobody can do anything. And again, it really boils down to what have we done before? And why is this such a huge issue again and again and again and again and again and again and again? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to make it right, make it better. But yeah, something's got to give at some point. I think something has to give at some point.
I think it's just the natural cycle of companies that get too successful, what inevitably happens is that when people make too much money, there is not really the incentive to be creative or to go above and beyond like the old Rockstar used to, or the old Activision Blizzard used to, or the old Ubisoft used to. And they get complacent, they get mediocre, and then a whole bunch of crap starts to happen, and then there has to be sort of an internal revolution. And I don't mean like the bloody kind, just like evolution before things can get set back on track again, if they are set back on track. And but I hope like some sort of miracle happens, that Rockstar is able to turn stuff around, and that when GTA 6 comes out, if it comes out, it's like the greatest thing ever. But yeah, given the way the games industry has been lately, I'm not holding my breath. A little bit of good news moving on from that. 343 Industries, the people behind the most recent Halo game since Halo 4. They also did Halo 5 and obviously most recently Halo Infinite. People have been complaining about a lot of stuff in regards to the multiplayer. People have said the progression is too slow. People are saying that there's a whole bunch of glitches that are happening, particularly in the big team battle playlist I've been hearing about. I unfortunately haven't had a lot of time to play Halo Infinite, even though I really, really want to. It's just I haven't had the time. And that's saying a lot because everybody knows how much of a Halo fan I am. But there is a good bit of news. Apparently, 343 have actively been addressing people's complaints about the price of in-store cosmetics. There's this, what's his name? The head of design at 343 Industries, Jerry Hook. He addressed people's complaints in regards to that last Saturday in a tweet. He said, "We've been monitoring the discussions on the shop, bundles, and pricing closely since launch. Using data and community feedback, we're going to begin rolling out changes to how we package and price items in Halo Infinite, and it all starts next week." And then in another tweet, he said, "Starting Tuesday, the shop experience will vary week to week. We are focused on reducing pricing across the board, providing stronger values in our bundles, starting to put individual items outside of bundles and more." Now, obviously you could say, well, I would have just preferred if the multiplayer, you just paid for the multiplayer so it was a part of the complete package instead of having to go free to play. But it is free to play. 343 are a business, they want to make money, and by choosing a free-to-play model, that obviously means you have to pay for cosmetics. And I appreciate that they are demonstrating that they're listening to people and responding to people's criticisms where they are offered. And apparently they're available to purchase now at a lower price, so you can go and enjoy that. Any thoughts on this? Like, have you been playing any Halo? I know you said you wanted to play a bit of it, and there was like some sort of option that was help you sort of get over the motion sickness thing. And anything on that?
Well, so no, I haven't been playing it. I actually just uninstalled it because it was taking up a lot of space, and I'm looking at some other all the new games in February, and I did not buy the campaign. So it was just the free multiplayer. I think it's a great, I think they're doing a good job, and I think that they're, keep the pressure up, because Microsoft does well, Xbox does well when people are putting pressure on them. Mm-hmm. They do way better when people are watching them like a hawk. Like with this, it's like, oh, we're being watched, guys. We're being watched. So we're not going to try and we're going to try and be, better. Here's some better deals, and we're going to cut this down by like 30%. It's like, that's good. Keep it up. Seriously, keep it up, because you just can't trust these people sometimes. Like, it's kind of annoying how terrible it is to be able to trust these guys. Yeah. So in this particular case, in this particular format, keep on it, guys. Keep doing a good job.
Yeah, seriously, keep on doing it, guys. Otherwise, they'll turn into like the Dead by Daylight type of people, where they'll just placate everybody by giving away blood points or something. And no, we want a proper system, one that's actually fun to grind for to a certain degree. Like, there's some There's a good grind and there's a bad grind. Unfortunately, most of the time it's a bad grind. But then there are other times where it feels like you accomplish something by putting effort into the game. I especially got that feeling by playing the Halo Master Chief Collection and the way you got cosmetics in that game. And hopefully we can get a similar system set up, even though Halo Infinite's multiplayer is a free-to-play system. Mm-hmm. All right. And then we got this final story that I actually didn't read about because I wanted Syb to sort of explain it to me. But it sounds like a really positive story to end on. Syb, what's the deal with this?
So there is a new research has come out that suggests that balanced training video games could lead to improvements with kids with autism. And
balanced training?
Yeah, balance training.
Okay.
Through video games, and that there's a lot of video games that do that. And yeah, I know. This is something that I struggled with when I was a kid, and I was falling down all the time. I was hitting, like, stubbing my toes. Not just like, oh, I stubbed my toe. Like, oh, I think I might need to go to the hospital because I think I broke my bone. That kind. Of like hard stubbing, and it took a combination of sword fighting training, and I know a bunch of people are going to go, that's a funny joke. No, literally, I trained under a gold medalist for a number of years, and that helped a lot.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you. Like actual sword fighting or like fencing?
Well, fencing is actual swords fighting.
Right, but like, I mean, like this dude, you know what I mean.
But so most people don't know that there's 3 different variations of sword fighting in the fencing category. So you have fencing, epee, and then you have saber. And the saber is like traditional, like movie cinematic, like that's what you see in the Star Wars, the original,
or Star Wars,
Star Wars. Some Lord of the Rings fighting is saber fighting. A lot of it, like, Gimli is axe fighting, and that is a completely different thing. And then you've got like broadsword fighting and that kind of stuff. And it's all different. It's all different field. But no, saber is the one that I excelled at. I actually managed to place like quite high in. I don't want to dox myself here, but I placed in the top 10 at a certain point in history. So it's good. It's fun. And so games teach you the same thing. And there were, and I can imagine that a fair number of body mobile games, like one of the things that I was always interested in, but I was always too scared to like get into it, which I really honestly regret, is like DDR, or wait, how do you say that?
DDR.
Dance Revolution. It's like, I always watched people play that with like utter fascination, wanting to learn, but I was always just too chicken to get into it. And it's kind of sad because like, it probably would have been really helpful for me. Yeah. But so stuff like that. It's like, yes, this helps. I mean, video gaming helps. I had tremendous issue with like reading and writing when I was a kid too. Like I was years behind, and it wasn't until video games with story that had a particular element that I liked that I actually sat myself down and forced myself to learn that kind of stuff. And there were some other other things that helped to encourage that. I went from and then it ballooned very quickly. I went from having very little reading, very little like ability to read, to I was reading through the dictionary, encyclopedias, and about 3,000. I had a collection of about 3,000 National Geographic's books, those yellow coated things. They're quite popular. I had them. I had some of their like from the 1800s runs. I had from there all the way up until the current year. I had almost the entire full collection. It was pretty cool. It's 100 years worth of magazines, and almost 100 years of magazines at point in time. And it's like, and I managed to chew through most of them. If you ever wonder why I know so much, it's like, start doing that as a kid. Like, if you want your kids to be smart, encourage them, find some way to get them to read through just a massive amount of information, because they'll remember at least like 5-10% of it. And that 5-10% of it, when you're reading 1,000 articles, is actually quite helpful. Like you actually start to retain more and more and more and more the more and more and more you push that. So.
That's why it's better to get your kids learning a language like earlier on.
Yeah. And language is another one too, where it's like I was studying Greek, and a Chaldean, and a couple other like really old languages on top of like some like more recently abandoned ones. Taking a stab at Latin for a little bit there, but
Klingon.
But yeah, it's like those things are like Klingon. Oh, Klingon and that Navi from Last Airbender. There were so many people who were taking Navi classes until they realized that they were becoming ultra nerds, and they're like, "Oh wait, I don't think I want to do this anymore." So yeah, it was crazy. But yes, the video games, shocker, video games help you learn things. This is something that we've been saying for a long time. And if more of this encouragement had been built into society from the get-go, I think we would see a lot more gaming centric education, and that gaming centric education might have completely revolutionized our world. And so instead of politicians complaining about violence in video games, find some way to work around that. Offer something like, it's so annoying because it's like, you guys could just, embrace gaming and then like take it and do other things with it. And it's just some people, especially older generations, so stuck in their ways. It's really frustrating.
But if they did that, they wouldn't have a scapegoat to blame greater problems on, side.
Right.
What are you going to do? But yeah, that does sound cool. We'll put a link to it, this particular article in the description box, so people could go and check it out. But it does sort of validate my belief and Side's belief that it does have educational value. The only thing that I have a question about, if it's all about trying to help people reduce autism symptoms through balance training, like what aside from like the Wii Fit, which is like an over decade old what's it called, peripheral, what alternatives are that people can purchase now if they wanted to improve their autism symptoms? Because I don't think there's a lot of them.
Well, I mean, it all depends on what's affecting it, right? Like I know lots of, because they've rolled autism and all of its like subcategories into one thing. There's like, and we both know, like, there's Aspies, there's more motor functional issues,
nonverbal.
Some others it's more verbal issues, nonverbal issues. There's tons of different aspects to it, and when people say it's a spectrum, like, some people treat it kind of as a joke, but no, there's actually an enormous spectrum of where people can land up on that and the severity of all those things. Some autistic people, they just appear shy, and when shy and excitable when approached with particular things that they really enjoy, and when you get that rolling into a young girl, that hides itself really, really well.
Yeah.
But when you have a kid, I encountered one kid who was or in a big mall, and he was just fascinated with how his voice echoed, and so he's running around this place. There was nobody watching him that I could see. He was about probably like 11, 12 maybe.
Yeah.
And he was just like, like making sounds and acting in what most people would call irrational and disruptive, but it was clear that the kid was just interested in the sound.
Yeah.
And again, so it's like it affects people differently, and then how you can react to it, or how it can affect you, you can kind of like tweak those things from there. So like if you have, if somebody has autism and they're struggling with like, reading and knowledge retention or focus. It's like, that's what you get. You like get them things that help them with that. Find the way, and I'm convinced that there's always a way to like refine this.
Like Captain Kirk said.
Yeah. There's always a way. For me, it boiled down to video games, and video games with a particular with several particular things in it. And those games really, like, they brought me out of a shell. They really encouraged me to read. I actively like pushed myself to get better at reading and information retention, and to improve just a ton of stuff. And it's like that helped immeasurably. And if somebody had, and that I stumbled into by accident and was not encouraged in that in any way, shape, or form. So until I literally moved out of the house, I was not encouraged in it in any way, shape, or form. And I have to say that if you as a parent or a friend or something like that, if you can identify those kinds of things and then help to encourage that, the meaningfulness and the ability for that to improve things goes a long ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it from my perspective.
Yeah. Do whatever you have to do for your child, and don't skimp on video games, because they have helped me, they've helped Syb, and they can help your own child. So that's it for this week in Maximum News, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, if you like this particular episode, make sure to hit that like button, because when you do that, it not only helps this particular episode, but it helps all the other episodes on the Triple S podcasts, and not the subsidiary, but the tangential. What's a way of saying it that doesn't sound insulting? I'm not trying to be. Just it helps the other Triple S League channels, what I'm trying to say. When you hit the like button, make sure to leave a comment if you have any thoughts on any of the stories that we talked about. I want to thank Syb, as always, for doing the show with me, for providing his lovely insight. Syb, do you want to just tell people about the Triple S League, the other channel, before we go?
Yeah, check out the main channel. We got lots of guides and stuff, and we're going to be doing lots of streaming of new games coming out in February of 2022. So yeah, check that out.
Dying Light 2, Horizon, Total War, maybe, and Elden Ring. Those are all games to look forward to. And then you guys could just find me at my main channel, Max Derrat. I'll put a link to that and the main Triple S League channel in the description box below. Thanks, guys, and until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, as always and as per usual, y'all stay yellow.